In Escape from Tarkov, ground caches are the second type of stash that are available to be looted. These are not to be confused with the blue barrel caches, which can be very easily identified by their barrel shape and then the top that kind of goes on top of them as well. There are many items that are available in the ground stashes that are not available in these blue barrel stashes that we have previously mentioned, as they just can't fit in there. They're the MBSSs you can find in there, some of the belt rigs and things like that. Any rig that's a 4x4 rather than a 3x4 can be found in the ground stashes and were not able to be found in the blue barrel stashes. The ground caches can be identified by kind of the bulge that comes out of the ground, where it looks like kind of collection of sticks and leaves and limbs and things like that that are kind of protruding up from the ground. Once opened, they are also 4 tiles larger than the blue barrel caches and have a much larger variety of items that can spawn in them due to this larger pool. Running stashes is probably one of the best ways to make consistent money with a high survival rate while other people chase PvP, finish their quests, and go for the high tier loot spawns. Running stashes is one of those ways that you can kind of avoid all of that and just get in, get items, fill your bag, leave at the extraction, and try to avoid all kinds of combat. There are many different routes to run stashes, but learning the location of the stashes via maps available on the wiki and crafting one of your own routes is probably the best option, as you'll be doing a different route than other people and you might beat them to certain stashes that if you were running the same route, you would just be right behind them as they ran the exact same route as you. So to try to avoid players, I recommend creating your own route, only because you kind of learned your own route as opposed to using someone else's. And then that'll give you an opportunity to say, okay, I always run into a player here around 30 seconds into the raid or a minute and a half into the raid. So instead, I'm going to go over here and go this way, which gives you a route with better survivability. I do have a video regarding the blue barrel caches, which I completed last week, and their value. If you are interested in seeing the difference in their values, then that video will be available in the top right and also at the end of the video for your comparison. I looted 1,000 ground caches across about 150 hours, noted every item I found, noted their market values, drop percentages, and the value per slot of each item, and here's what I found. Hi, I'm Solaris, and welcome to another episode in our series of looting 1,000 of every container in Tarkov to find out what their value is. If you're new here, I have been reporting the results of each of these experiments in a spreadsheet, which is in the description of the video. These numbers are meant to provide an idea of what to expect when looting and not to provide exact statistics and numbers on each of the individual items. These are not going to be exact rates. They're just going to be more practical rates for what you should expect when looting and what I got while I was looting them. Before I go any further, if the info that I provide in these videos is helpful to you, or if you find usefulness in the spreadsheet in your playing time, I would greatly appreciate it if you would like the video and leave a comment down below. I will be live over at twitch.tv/Solaris, so if you have any questions or just want to hang out, you can meet us over there for some of that. As I continue, the routing that I use to farm these ground stashes will be on screen. It is the same route that I used last week, only because it's the route I'm most comfortable with on customs. If you're just listening, you don't need to worry about it because, like I said, it's the same route as last week. The most important info here will be the numbers, which I'll be providing in the audio and briefly having up here on screen as well. I have created a spreadsheet with all the information that I found important, as usual. That spreadsheet will be available below in the description with the current market values updated hourly for you. Make sure to bookmark it for future use because saving the spreadsheet will stop those values from updating for your copy, but it won't affect mine at all. So just bookmark it and revisit my copy so that you can get those updated hourly values. Just like last week, due to the massive amount of items which can be found in the different kinds of stashes, we will not have the normal graphics that we use in most of these videos. Instead, we'll be addressing them in groups, just like we did last week, and only addressing specifics for very valuable items and specific task items. For any further specifics that you have questions about, I recommend checking the spreadsheet. You can hit Control F and search for the item that you're curious about, and that'll have all that information for you there. Before we go any further, let me know down in the comment section below what your favorite stash route is, or if you don't think stashes are worth looting at all. If you think that your stash route is worth putting in a video, join my Discord and let me know, and I'll put that video up as soon as I can. The first group of items here, just like last week, were the armors. Similar to the barrel stashes, I only found 51 armors. This was 4 less than the barrel stashes overall, but 30 of them were level 4 or higher Whereas last week we had a much lower number, I think around 15 that were 30 or that were level 4 or higher, and that is a significant difference. So if you're looking for level 4 armors or anything above that, I would check the ground stashes over the barrel stashes. There were 9 armors that were level 5 or higher, and finally we had 3 of the slick plate carriers and 1 of these Zuck 6As, which were the only ones representing the level 6 armors. So you had a little bit more of every kind of armor above level 4 as opposed to the blue barrel stashes, and some of those were due to the size constraints, as if you have other items spawning in there, you just don't have room for an armor when looting the blue barrel stash. The second groups were the helmets, which I found around 81 of. However, just like the armors, there were a number of those helmets which were worth grabbing at around 66, and just, you know, tossing your helmet to the side whenever you pick up that helmet. The helmets and ground stashes, just like the armors, were overall better than the one in barrel stashes. They were consistently better as well with the modifications for helmets, where you got modifications that were for the helmets that you were finding in the ground stash rather than just finding a random modification. The weapons as well were the next group, and they were much more common within the ground stashes at around 166. However, the biggest difference here wasn't just the amount of weapons, but the percentage of those weapons that weren't pistols and shotguns, like mentioned last week. You only had like 40 something that weren't pistols or shotguns on the other one. In this one, we found 95 weapons that were not shotguns or pistols. So over 50% of the weapons found in the ground stashes were not shotguns or pistols. A majority of them were the PP9s, PP91s, and PP19 variants. However, I found a significant amount of AKs, both kinds of MDRs, MP5s, and MP7s, making this a greater source for high tier weapons early on in wipe, or if you're trying to avoid purchasing them and just want to find them, this is also a great source for finding them as well. Just like last week, I found no ammo at all inside the ground stashes, which I find very interesting because I am 100% confident that in the past, these were a really, really great way to find high tier ammos early on in wipe. So I'm curious to know if that was a recent change or if it was just a change that I did not notice over the last 2 years and when that change may have taken place. I did find 197 items that generally fall underneath the medical category, including bandages, painkillers, and tourniquets. However, as mentioned before, some of the items are map restricted, and I did not find them due to the route that I used on custom. So just like last week, if you find a specific item very often, it's possibly because of the map that you are playing on when you're looting stashes. So if one of those items you want to check on, just go to the spreadsheet, check for that item, see if it's map restricted. That's probably why you're getting it a whole lot more than I did. Similar to last week, I found 334 items that were categorized as food, which is basically equivalent to last week. I think last week we got like 333 on the blue barrel stashes. But this makes for a great way for you to stock up early on and wipe, or to save yourself from passing out when low on energy or hydration. This is also probably a great way to start stocking up on some of the items that you need for barters, for the holodilnic and things like that. Now, granted, there are better ways to find those, but you know, once you find those, filling up your holodilnic, you can just go and hit these stashes along your way, grab any of the food items, throw them in there, or sell them, because early on in wipe, food is actually not a bad way to make some money. The total amount of items that I found in the ground stashes was 2,764, which is around 400 less than we found in the blue barrel stashes. However, I found a ton more rigs, we found a ton more weapons, so the items that we found were much valuable. In addition to that, the rigs gave you more inventory space, so kind of looting both of them as you go is definitely great, because as you get less items in the ground stashes, they're probably items that you can store other things in, and then you can go over to the blue barrel stashes and fill the rigs that you find. So that's definitely a great way to increase your inventory space as well, while looting the ground stashes. The rubles that I found per stash when looting the ground stashes were very, very similar to the blue barrel stashes, because they were around 46,000 rubles per stash, which I think is like 1,000 more. However, as I've mentioned in previous videos, finding something like a weapon, which, you know, has a, you know, specified ruble value, it might be worth more than what that ruble value is, as you can use it early on wipe. So like an MDR, for example, is probably only worth, you know, anywhere from 40 to 60,000 rubles, depending on which one you find. And then early on in wipe, that 40 to 60,000 rubles, it's worth a whole lot more as a gun in your hand than it is to sell to trader, because it's a gun that not a whole lot of other people are going to have. The ammo for it is very, very good, and you can use it to progress on in your wipe much faster by having a better weapon early on. I personally think that both of these stashes are definitely worth looting. The ground stashes just have a little bit more specified value in terms of armors and weapons, as the blue barrel stashes do, where the blue barrel stash is kind of just a source for money. There are plenty of routes that are commonly known or can be easily learned on maps like Shoreline Woods, Customs, and Interchange, and I definitely recommend learning some of those, picking a map that you're comfortable on and learning those stash routes so that you can progress faster. Hopefully the footage of the route was helpful and gave you an idea of the way I avoid most PvP as I dart between stashes and low traffic areas. There are many other routes that can be used, like I mentioned, and I will be addressing those routes in the future and going over my favorites for speed, optimization, and survivability in terms of, how much money you can make per hour, if you're dying or if you're not dying, all those kinds of things. If you felt that the information that I provided in the video was helpful, I would greatly appreciate it if you would hit the like button and drop a comment down below letting me know. It always helps out with the YouTube algorithm whenever somebody leaves a comment, regardless of whether it's positive or negative. I will always respond to those comments as quickly as I possibly can, although sometimes I am at work and it does take me a few hours to get back to you. If you would like to continue following the channel, I recommend subscribing, and then if there's a specific information that you are interested in, let me know what those are down below so I can try to fulfill those requests and meet the needs of the community. Once again, I will be live over at twitch.tv/Solarius when this video posts. If you're looking for people to play with or are interested in helping out with any of the tests or collections that we do, you can join the Discord or you can hop over to the stream, let me know, and I can get you a link there as well. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.